without further ado, we will go ahead and put Mr. Corey Paul on the clock and make it very brief and simple.
Oh, we get music?
We're getting the chimes in there, my man. I think we all know who's going number one here. Go ahead, Mr. Corey Paul, with the first pick.
Well, it's awesome because I'm a Cincinnati fan, and we're going to get Joe Burrow at number one. He had a great season last year, won the championship, probably the best college season ever, in my mind, but that's debatable.
So Corey Paul goes. So Corey Paul goes with number one, the absolute phenom that was Joe Burrow. I think some of us have some type of issue to go with maybe putting him in the conversation of greatest college season ever. I know I'm not alone in this chat by thinking Cam Newton's year at Auburn may supplant that, but that's an argument you could have all day. Corey Paul, if there was a team trading up to number one, and obviously in this mock draft there's not going to be, what would it possibly take for the Bengals to possibly trade out? Like, do you think that there's any scenario that happens, or what do you think it would take?
I think it would have to be at least two of the Dolphins' first-round picks. Probably all three, but I think since he's pretty set, I'm taking Burrow.
So we have Mr. Joe Burrow going number one. And there it is on the board right there. We move along to pick number two. Mr. Dave Gettleman Sr. is going to be picking for the Washington Redskins. So, my man, go ahead and do the honors for us.
I don't think this one's any surprise. But it's going to be Chase Young going second. You know, Giants blew their chance here, but it is what it is.
Is he the best? Is he the best player on your board?
Yeah, he's number one for me. I mean, I think Burrow's awesome, but there's been proven that there's just no shortage of quarterbacks around the league if you have the correct team around them. Like you saw what Tannehill did this year. So I think if you can get like a game-changing end like that,
is that shot at Tannehill?
It's not a shot. No, it's praise to him. It's that like there are plenty of good quarterbacks out there. It's just you have to have the correct team around them to win.
You have to have some sort of support system in there as well. And, you know, with a team like this, the Washington Redskins really could make a giant splash on the defensive side of the ball, particularly. You know, you look at the front seven, you throw this is not a need by way of pick. I think we can all agree on the fact that, or a pick by way of need, as I completely went dyslexic right there. You don't necessarily see, though, very often teams pick by need at number two. It is almost always the best player available, and that's the route I believe the Washington Redskins are going. Any chance, my man, Eli, if you were taking trades right now, what would it take to get Washington to hop out of two for a team that may desperately want, you know, a Mr. Hawaiian pulling the strings?
I mean, realistically, for number two, it's not a quarterback. So you'd imagine it would have to take like a top 10 pick this year, and then probably it's going to take two picks minimum, but it'd probably have to be a top 10 pick this year and then another pick next year. In all reality,
I would probably agree with that.
So I think the only scenario where you saw three go off the board for number two was with Washington and when they drafted RG3, and it was because it was for RG3, and you know, or even Carson Wentz. What was it? 2 first rounds for Carson Wentz at 2?
It was 2 first rounds, I think, in a second or a third, somewhere around there. So we move on to pick number 3. This goes right back to Corey Paul again.
I think, especially on defense, after this pick, it falls off a lot on talent. It's going to go to Okudah from Ohio State.
How far do you see that fall, Corey? You make an interesting comment there. As far as like the defensive side of the ball is concerned in this draft, how far is the drop from Okudah to the next best defensive player? I disagree with you because you and I both think there's a damn talented player on the board right here where this thing's just about to get ready to get interesting.
I mean, Okudah and Simmons are, other than Chase Young, are the 2 best players.
Do you put a cornerback above like a linebacker, especially when you have a team who just traded their number 1?
I mean, I think personally the Lions need both.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if for some reason they blow our minds and do a crazy trade, even though nobody's predicting it. Or not a trade. They take Simmons. Nobody's predicting it, but I'm thinking Okudah for him. I think other than those two players, it falls off hard after that.
I see absolutely no way the Lions actually pick at 3.
That's a good point that you raised, my man.
I see absolutely
That's a good point you raised. It's a good point you raised because I agree with you. I don't think there's any way Detroit makes this pick in real life. I think they're going to move down, and they could probably get their guy at like 6 or 7 as far as Okudah is concerned. Because Okudah is – we talked about this in this week's group chat that we had of us 4. Okudah is the best defensive back in this draft. I don't think there's any question about it. You want to know something crazy about Jeff Okudah? Jeff Okudah – put this in your mind for a second. No penalties this past year at Ohio State. Not a single PI call, not a single holding call, not a single pair of
game. We all know that's bullshit.
Which not a single pair of yellow laundry ended up on the field Okudah's way. Who do I think would trade up? I think the Dolphins are obviously in the conversation. The Chargers.
Realistically, it comes down to do you want Tua or Herbert right now? And like, if the Chargers stay where they're at, they're going to get the latter.
Tua or who?
Tua or Herbert I'm not a Herbert person, but
let's not spoil the Herbert talk. Tino, hold up, Tino. Go ahead, and make that face one more time. Go ahead, and do it. Dude, I think I'm different from a couple of you guys in terms of your opinion on Herbert, but I think Herbert's ceiling is pretty damn high, man. I loved his arm strength. I loved his poise in the pocket, and obviously his ability to get out. Now, here's the problem with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, that's a problem in and of itself. How about the fact he's never left the state of Oregon? He's never left the state of Oregon, dude.
Who's the last good Oregon quarterback?
Well, Mariota had a great rookie year. You could say maybe a good couple of first years, but
I'm going to go with Jeremiah Masoli.
We're talking so much about these quarterbacks, but we got to get to another pick right here with pick number 4. Bum, 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 bum. We're back to Gettleman Sr., who's picking for the New York Giants in a pick that could easily tip the scales. Go ahead, Mr. Milligan. Who are you making at number 4 for the Giants?
This is like such a hard pick, I'm going to be honest with you, because
there's one choice here.
There is one choice.
I think so.
But is it the right choice? And that's where I'm at, because dude, the pick that I think Gettleman takes here is Willis, but the pick that I think is the right pick is Tristan Wirfs, Mila.
Tristan Wirfs.
In reality, like the Giants, the Giants actually the last freaking 10 years has been the offensive line. And that's why they went out and paid all that money for Logan Mankins for to stink up the place. As much as I love Simmons and I've been screaming to get a great linebacker on the Giants for years. You can't invest all your chips in 2 blue chip, a running back as well as a quarterback at that point who have to play behind the line without investing in the line. And I think that's just the right move long term. But I don't think it's the move he makes.
It's like I said, it's a pick that's going to send the dominoes beginning to tip. And it's whether or not they go Isaiah Simmons. If I were sitting here, and to be honest with you, my man, you are the Giants fan, so I don't know how much you have read up on this or not. However, I do think that Simmons is the pick here. I know, Tino, you said that you believe there's only one pick to make here. Tino, would you have gone differently with this selection if you were sitting in the seat that Eli Milligan is?
Yeah, I'm going Simmons every time, man. I mean, watching him throughout the season, especially. Chill.
I'll take that from there. I think Isaiah Simmons is the pick here as well, and I think Isaiah Simmons is a transcendiary player in this draft. I mean, the number one question people have had about him coming into this process has simply been, what position does he play? If that's the number one question coming into you as a defensive prospect, that's what I'm saying, dude. It's an absolutely fantastic question to have about you. Over 200 snaps at the outside linebacker position, like around that 200 snap hover range at the safety position. He even played in the slot at the corner position for a while. This is a dude that can come in and change your defense right away. And showing up the line with Tristan Wirfs obviously doesn't hurt either. However, I digress. We move on. The number 5 pick in the draft is the first of 3 first-round picks in the first round. Pick number 5, pick number 18, and pick number 26. 18 by virtue of Pittsburgh, 26 by virtue of Houston, goes right back to Mr. Dave Gettleman Sr., and Mr. Dave Gettleman Sr. has a decision to make here, not based on what he's heard. If you've read a Mel Kiper mock draft, it's based on what he's heard, not based on what he thinks. However, the Miami Dolphins are on the clock here, and it is not me. Let me get my ugly face out of here. It's Mr. Eli Milligan once again with the selection.
So I don't think they play it safe. I think I really, really like Flores, and I think like his ceiling as a coach is massive. And I think they go Tua. I think it's a high risk play, but it's got the biggest reward out of any other quarterback in the draft.
So talk about this for a second. It's easy for us to make this pick, Eli, and I'll go ahead and give you the question. Is it easier for you to pick Tua here at number 5 because of the fact that you are not sitting in the seat that the Miami Dolphins are, and because you don't have to study the medicals, you don't have to make a judgment on whether or not he's going to get hurt in 2 years? That's not your call to make. Was it easier for you to take Tua here because of the fact you're sitting in your chair and the Miami front office is sitting in theirs?
I think Miami is invested long-term into both Flores and the team, given the way they stripped the roster down.
And by the way, I love Brian Flores as a head coach too. There were people whenever he, McDaniels, Matt Patricia, and Joe Judge, who are now all head coaches outside of McDaniels, obviously, but was very close to becoming a head coach. There were people that said all over the place in the New England building that Brian Flores was the best potential future head coach on that coaching staff. And I think winning 5 games with that team, incredible. So I agree with you on the Brian Flores thing. Go ahead and take it away with the rest of your point.
I just think they're invested in the future, and in reality, it's Tua really gives them. The other thing too is it's not like he's a run-first quarterback. He runs out of necessity. He can throw the ball.
Yeah,
and yeah, a hip injury is scary, but I think he is spectacular. And just watching what he did the last 2 years it's hard to put that away and say, yeah.
Let me go ahead.
Number 5 on Herbert.
Let me go ahead, though, and debunk a myth for you guys, okay, though? As I take Tua off this board, let me go ahead and debunk a myth, and especially one by my favorite radio host, guilty of his pleasure, Colin Cowherd, who constantly brings up the fact, Tino, say that one more time.
You're still muted. I'm absolutely with you.
No, but here's
he's the worst.
No.
Colin, dude.
Americans aren't smart.
I like Cowherd, dude, but like here's the thing. You can't ditch the narrative of something if you alter and edit the bottom line of the narrative. Clever plug on my podcast right there with the name. You can't alter the narrative the way you want it without giving the bottom line of the details. And he just constantly says, oh my God, Tua Tagovailoa has just played so well against top competition and SEC competition. You want to know what his numbers are against Georgia and Clemson in comparison to numbers against everybody else? They're not good. They're not great. Like, they really aren't. If you take a look at the numbers in comparison just against Clemson and Georgia, his quarterback rating dips almost 40 points. But I get that, but you can't just constantly say he looked fantastic against stellar competition when against the best competition he didn't.
You're going to look at, his numbers are great. You're looking at the win-loss column, and at the end of the day, you're playing those two competitions. You get at least 50% of those games.
And touchdown to interception ratio was 32-5, and rightfully so. I'm not knocking Tua in that way. I'm just trying to bring up a point that's kind of a false narrative. Like, yeah, he looked good against LSU this year, but against Clemson and Georgia is when he played his worst games. Tino, go with that once again.
As I was talking to my son, don't worry. As most people should play their worst game against that competition, though.
But you're right, and that's exactly my point, is that you're going to play those type of games against competition. Just don't go out and say and float around to everybody that he dominated everyone in the same fashion in every game, because it's not true.
I mean, but even the LSU game this past year where they say, yeah, he looked ugly. He fumbled the ball, which was really costing the game, quote unquote. I mean, dude threw for over 300 yards and had 4 touchdowns. So, it was his worst game of the year, and he dominated coming off an injury. dude's a stud, man. And as
I
a
agree
Charger
with you.
right now, next pick, we're pissed if he's gone right now.
Ultimately, I agree with you, dude.
Right there.
Ultimately,
But-
I agree with you, and I think he lands a little bit higher. But we're gonna go ahead and move it along with this man's first pick of the night, the number
Thank
6 pick of the night, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, and we're going to take the easy, safe pick. It's not the sexy pick, but we're going to take Mekhi. I think it's Becton. I think it's called. It might be Becton, but who knows at this point, really? About O-line, but we're going to take the safe pick and protect our quarterback. We're going to plan for next year, and hopefully we can get Tua or Justin Fields next year or whatever. But play this year, protect the O-line, win on defense right now. Let Bosa. We get I don't even fucking care. The safety back from injury. We have
Derwin James, my man. Derwin James.
But you knew what I was talking about. See, we're on the same page.
Yeah, we are. We are.
So
and
we play the safe year. We rock it out with freaking
Tyrod Taylor.
I should tell you, like with that pick, you really fucked my
is
draft.
Tyrod Taylor the long-term answer though? Is Tyrod
No,
Taylor
it's okay.
going to be the long-term answer? No.
You rock it out for 1 year. You plan the draft next year.
I mean, with the tools that they have, no matter who plays quarterback, they're going to be in the teens.
You're gonna get 7-10 wins.
They're going to be in the teens next year for the draft. So it's not like they're playing for Trevor Lawrence here.
Yeah, you're gonna get 7 to 10 wins this year, regardless, no matter who you pick right here. It doesn't really change your season too much, but it helps you. One, you get an O line, which puts you in play not only for free agency next year, but you're in draft pick next year as well.
No, I agree. And however, we can get into a whole nother conversation in and of itself when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. But I cannot believe here, as I step up to the podium for the first time, that I've been given a dilemma with this pick. Let me just say, going into number 7, this pick was an easy one for me that I rehearsed multiple times because I thought about it ad nauseum, being that it was the first time I was going to be on the board. However, you guys have gifted me with something, okay? You guys have gifted me with the ability of even re-upping on those thoughts, because with the 6th pick in the bottom line mock draft, the Carolina Panthers are oh so happy to bring into their facility my man, Isaiah Simmons from Clemson. I don't know how Isaiah Simmons is going to fall to here. I think, in my opinion, he's going to go at 4. And I think that the New York Giants would love to have his services. However, right here, this is an easy pick for me. Derek Brown would have been the pick for me out of Auburn, the defensive tackle, and it's going to be very interesting to see how long he's going to last now that we're past the Carolina Panthers and he's still on the board. However, holy lucky stars, I will get my man Isaiah, and we will continue to trudge along now with the 8th pick in the draft.
I mean, but for a second, can we talk about how happy would Carolina be if they can replace Luke Kuechly with Simmons off rip like that? I mean, my goodness, talk about a dream scenario for them.
That's what I'm saying, my man. And you raise a good point. Go ahead.
Can I show something really quick? I want to show you why they should not go for Simmons. This
Are you talking about the Giants?
Giants, yes. All right, let's watch this clip for a quick second. Look at the amount of penetration they're getting 2 seconds in. And this isn't like we're not.
This is Jamal Adams taking it to the house.
We're not sitting here watching like a crazy team. Like we're watching the New York Jets against the Giants. And
the Jets were one of the best defenses in the league. I want to hear that though.
Oh my gosh.
You had 8 guys behind the line of scrimmage immediately.
Fair enough.
And Tristan Wirfs will be a guy that can, go ahead and get that thing done, right?
And do whatever the O-line people do, right?
And there's so many O-linemen in this draft.
There are.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
there's only 4 at the top. There's only 4 at the top.
Coming off at 9, I mean, I don't think there's any way Arizona doesn't go O-line. We're gonna take Jedrick Wills out of Bama at tackle. I mean, you got to protect Kyler at this point in time. I mean, you already got your receiver. You don't need to, reach for a receiver right now. You got to protect it. You got to build up that O-line, put him in there.
And this is a pick that really works for the Arizona Cardinals because what they're going to do is kick DJ Humphries over to the left side, or at least from what I've read, they're going to kick DJ Humphries over to the left side. And Jedrick Wills is a perfect fitting right tackle that they can plug in and play right away. Kyler, let me just go ahead and say this to y'all as well. I don't know if y'all are ready for it. I'm not saying he's going to take a Lamar Jackson type of leap, but Kyler Murray is going to break out next season, especially if he's got
Kyler. I love
Kyler
his game.
Murray.
I love that offense. I love they brought DeAndre over. I mean, he has a chance to.
It's hard not to throw at DeAndre Hopkins.
I'm going to go one by one here. I'm going to go one by one. Starting with myself, I would take Kyler Murray over Baker Mayfield, and trust me, I've watched a lot of Oklahoma games. And Mr. Eli, what do you think? Kyler or Baker Mayfield for the future of your team?
You just kind of watch it. I mean, like it was pretty clear this year that one quarterback was afraid to throw the ball and the other wasn't.
That's what I'm saying. And the other had 46 times he was taken to the ground, 46 sacks.
That's Aaron Rodgers numbers.
What do you think? Baker or Kyler Murray for your future?
I like Baker better. And I mean, I like Baker better for one reason because of his weapons he has. So I know that can be temporary. But I don't know. He shuffled coaches. Look at his first year compared to his second year. I like Baker. Look at him in college. He has potential. I like him better than Kyler. I think he'll last longer than Kyler. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. Kyler's sort of a scrambler, and he'll take more hits. So I don't know. If Baker protects himself, I think he'll last way longer than Kyler.
I think the one clip or play that comes up Baker though is that one where I think it was Thursday night game last year where they're at the 5-yard line and that middle just opened up wide open and he stood there and threw the ball away.
I honestly think I agree. I think Baker needs to see a medium because he sees ghosts.
Yep.
I see ghosts. I love it.
He does. He does see ghosts. He just looks around and he's nonsense.
They need to stop shuffling all their coaches and shuffling everything.
I mean, he had Freddie Kitchens for what, like a season and a half?
Bro, he didn't have him for a season and a half as like the full-time head coach.
But he was
the OC before, wasn't he?
Like Williams.
Yeah, and he was calling plays.
Really, he had him for 2 years.
Greg Williams,
he did.
He's the coach. He's not going to sit there and tell Freddie Kitchens what to do on offense.
But I called the hire. I got to say, I called the hire, like the Stefanski hire. That was one of my best predictions of the year. And I think that there is a way that Kevin Stefanski can see something out of what he can bring out of Baker Mayfield. I don't think that was a whole lot of smoke. I do think it was a whole lot of fire. And however, that just makes my point. Kyler Murray's better. Kyler throws a better deep ball. Kyler's more mobile. There's a reason why when Baker was suspended for a year or for a game at Oklahoma for a quarter, very first play, Kyler Murray comes out. Very first play of the game against West Virginia 2 seasons ago. Okay, my name's Kyler Murray. I'm going to come out here and just replace Baker Mayfield. 77-yard touchdown. All right, here you go, Baker. Go ahead, take over the rest of the game. That is literally his introduction to Oklahoma fans while he didn't think he was going to have to sit out a year anyway. Bottom line is I love this pick from Tino. He's my number 2 tackle. Mekhi Becton is my number 1 tackle. However, we do go back to Tino